Hey guys, this is P.M.R.Bonez88, and today for my next superhero movie review that I'll be talking about today is the 1986 classic, Transformers the Movie. So this movie came in the summer of 1986, and there was mixed reviews about this movie and due to all the characters that died in season 1. But they also had big stars from this movie, such as Judge Nelson was the voice of Hot Rod, and I've seen him in both the 1985 classic movies of The Breakfast Club and St. Elmo's Fire. Leonard Nimoy was the voice of Galvatron, and we all know him as Spock from the Star Trek franchises and the series, and sadly he passed away, but we will miss him. Plus he also did come back to do the voice of Sentinel Prime in Dark of the Moon. Robert Stack was the voice of Ultra Madness, and he was also another familiar cast because I seen him in one movie of the 1978 classic Airplane. Eric Idle, the voice of Wreck-Gar, and once again another familiar cast member from the movie National Lampoon's European Vacation, and Casper. And Orson Welles was the voice of Unicron. But it was sadly that he passed away when the movie came in theaters. When I first saw Transformers the movie, I saw it with my cousin on VHS, and I was only about 3 or 4. Actually, I was 4 years old when I first saw Transformers. And when I saw it, I didn't really get to know the original G1 characters. I got to know were both Hot Rod, Cub, Ultra Madness, Galvatron, Cyclonus, and Unicron. I kind of got to know Optimus Prime just a little bit, but then during the last battle between Optimus and Megatron, he just died, and that was like a big disappointment. A lot of fans got really upset when Optimus Prime died. Some fans got really upset, some got really mad, and they were even crying and just like been hearing that they got out of the movie theaters because they didn't want to see the movie anymore, because they didn't want to get to know the other Transformer characters. They wanted the original Transformer characters from season 1 and 2. But for some strange reason, that Transformers the movie, that some of the characters from season 1 and 2, they just like didn't really show up, or they couldn't fit all the characters into one movie. So I guess they only brought like just some of the characters back, and they want to introduce two new characters for season 3. For Transformers the movie, it was good for me, and that was the only Transformer, because at first I thought it was only just a cartoon movie itself, but I didn't know it was like a whole series like about the Transformers. And also for, again, when I was little, like during daycare, they did had Transformer toys. The Transformer toys that they had were Galvatron, Starscream, Hot Rod, and Cub. But most of the time I've been playing were just only Starscream and Cub, and I wanted to try how to transform them, but I didn't know how to do it. But I only like to just play with them as just they're only in their robot form. But during that time, then I started watching where the Transformers series, the G1, but it was only called Transformers Generation 2, but it was just only a recap just for Generation 1 to see it. And I got to know was Optimus, Megatron, and all the characters once again. Got to know them even more, and now I can see why that Optimus Prime and the other Autobots were very big, because they were so big at time. Big classic character, and just to know and love these characters too. But also as I got older, the only Transformer series that I got into was Beast Wars, so I totally forgot all about the original Transformers of G1, both Autobots and Decepticons. The only Transformer favorite show that I like to see were just Beast Wars, and Beast Machine was okay, but it didn't really enthusiast me because it was not the same as Beast Wars. This Beast Wars had the same names of such as Optimus, but except it wasn't Prime, it was Primal. And then they had Megatron, so those are the characters that I got to know even more. And I love were the Beast Wars series and the action figure toys. I got some of the Beast Wars toys when I was a kid, and I had was Megatron, and also the Transmel of Optimus Primal and Megatron. And also Rat Trap, but in its Transmetal 2 form. So anyways, back to Transformers the movie. So this movie starts out where Unicron just enters and find some planets just to eat and destroy. He finds the first planet to get to eat, devour, and destroy. Some of the bots that just survived and got away from Unicron, and that's where we also had the introduction, and with all the music that has the rock and roll, that was like so awesome. And I just wanted to get that kind of music of Transformers that was played by Lion. And first they had an alternate opening that had almost like a Star Wars introduction, but they scratched that off and they decided to use just this title just to show like all the big stars, the cast members that join in and doing the who's going to be the voice of which Transformer characters in. And then we started to the next scene that is now in the year 2005. The Decepticons are now taking over the Autobots' home planet Cybertron, and now the Autobots are living on 2 new moon bases, and we see is Optimus Prime and Ironhide keeping an eye on their home planet Cybertron and the Decepticons. And that's where Optimus wants to find like more rare energon, and they don't have enough power from the moon base. So now half of the Autobots go into the shuttle to find more energons to go back to Earth, and that's where the Decepticons interferes and kills off all the Transformer cast one by one. They killed off Broad, they killed off Prowl and Ratchet and Ironhide. It was really disappointing that they had to kill off all the characters just for, they only had just a brief short time being in the movie, just for a brief second. And then from there we see we introduced to Hot Rod and Spike's son Daniel. At first on the VHS that his colors was like all red and orange, but on the DVD that I got at the 20th anniversary, that somehow his arm was all pinkish and light red, so that was another problem for it. And I heard on the Blu-ray they try to make it like the color a little back to bring it back like red and oranges. But I guess in that the case that I try to find the movie on Blu-rays, but somehow you can't find it in stores. I guess you can only find it, it's just online or at Amazon. So I'm thinking of ordering it at Amazon, so that way I could get it on Blu-ray. And before next year, because I'm hearing next year that it'll be 30 years old. So if they do make Transformers the movie on Blu-ray, and it'll be like its 30th anniversary, that'll be great. But if not, then I could just find it at Amazon, just order it. Megatron and his Decepticons like going to Autobot City, and there's a big, huge, epic battle. And we also introduced to a female character, RC, which was also voiced by Susan Blue. So we see all the Autobots protecting the Autobot City and making it into a battle fortress, so that way they could protect from the Decepticons. And then during the next day, we see Optimus and the Autobots, including the Dinobots, coming to the rescue, and the Dinobots face off Devastator while Optimus goes after Megatron. So both Optimus and Megatron fought to the death. Optimus was getting ready to kill Megatron, but somehow he had a few tricks on his sleeves, so he pretended that he surrendered. So he slowly sneaked right to get his gun, and then all of a sudden Hot Rod interferes, and thanks to his stupidity, pathetic, heroic, Megatron gets the gun, shoots at Optimus Prime. Megatron was getting ready to finish him off, but then Optimus used all his strength, all his power just to finish off Megatron. So both two leaders were badly wounded, badly damaged, but Optimus was about to die soon. So the Decepticons retreated and were trying to return back to Cybertron. And then meanwhile, the Autobots checked to see how Optimus was doing, but somehow for Perceptor, according to him, what he said, that he feared that his wounds were fatal. In other words, he was dying. So Optimus didn't have much time, so he passes on the matrix of leadership to Ultra Madness, and that's where he became the new leader of the Autobots. And slowly that Optimus faced off Black Death. It was really sad that Optimus had to die. It was too bad that I just thought at first that I wish they couldn't just like let Optimus live throughout the whole movie. Let him live, and then at the end where they finally defeat Unicron and Optimus gets really badly damaged by Galvatron, faces him off, and then Hot Rod could have been the next leader. He passes on the Matrix to Hot Rod, and then he becomes Rodimus Prime. They could have done that, but unfortunately they didn't, so that sucked. Where we see Unicron seeing the footages where Optimus passed the Matrix to Ultra Madness and he got really pissed off. when I first saw it, I was a little terrified because of the dark, ominous melody, and including when we hear the big, like the heartbeat. It sounded like a heartbeat, and it gave me goosebumps, and I was like really just sitting and watching the movie just to be a good boy. And up until where he just screamed, I just jumped just for a brief second. It gave me nightmares for a couple of days, but after that I just got over it, and as I got older I got used to the dark and ominous melody. The Decepticons were trying to return back to Cybertron, but somehow while Astro Train saying he set Genesis away because there was like too many Decepticons. So Starscream debate and decide to get rid of some of the Decepticons that were badly damaged. So they got rid of only half of the Decepticons, and then Starscream just threw Megatron out without hesitating and out caring. I didn't like Starscream because for some strange reason Starscream always whines, he complains, and he thinks he's better than Megatron. He always wants to be the new leader of the Decepticons. That's why I didn't like the character not too much. I disliked him. All the Decepticons debated to be the new leader, and somehow things weren't doing so well. They were starting beating the shit out of each other and saying that they could be the next leader. Starscream wanted to be the next leader, but then the Constructicons wanted to be the new leader because they formed Devastator. And then Soundwave interfered and saying that he wanted to be the leader. It was all mayhem. All the Decepticons face each other, like beat the crap out of each other throughout Cybertron, think that they could be the next leader. Then meanwhile, all the Decepticons were all just floating in space, or probably something malfunction, or probably dying, and that's where they ran into the monster-eating planet known as Unicron. So Unicron gave Megatron a job, like offered him something, like he would provide him with a new body and new troops to command. He also wanted him to do something for Unicron that he wants to destroy was the Matrix of Leadership. At first Megatron refused to not do his bidding, but somehow Unicron punished him and let him suffer. But then after a while he accepts his terms, and that's where he upgraded him, gave him a new body, and that's where he became Galvatron. And along with the other Decepticons that were both damaged, they got new bodies, and they were known as Scourge the Tracker, and the other two Insecticons became the Sweeps, and Bombshell became Cyclonus the Warrior, and Skywarp his Armada. For some strange reason that his Armada, he was only there just for a brief seconds, and then throughout the whole movie he just disappears. Like, what the hell? If you make him as Armada, how come he's not showing up throughout the whole movie? But it's whatever, it's just Transformers for you guys. So meanwhile, back in Cybertron, Starscream became the new leader of the Decepticons just for a brief second. And then Galvatron shows up, interferes, disrupting Starscream's incarnation. So Galvatron just blasts off Starscream, and good riddance, because I didn't like Starscream at all. I wanted him dead. I hate to say this, folks, because Starscream, once again, he was a bit of annoying, so that was the end of Starscream, and good riddance for him. Then Unicron shows up and destroys 2 moon bases and captures the other Autobots, including Spike. The best scene ever is where Spike just like said, "Oh shit," because in the VHS they cut it out because due to where kids wanted to watch Transformers the movie and they wanted to buy it on VHS, so they cut that out. So I can see why they rated PG. When the DVD in the 20th anniversary, they added it back the swear word where Spike says, "Oh shit, what are we gonna do now?" That was like very, very clever to see now the reason why they did that. I still have both the movies on VHS and DVD, but I wanted to get the Blu-ray, so hopefully they still have that swear word, but of course they're gonna have it. The music composer was played by Vince DiColata. I don't know if it's right, if I did say it right or I pronounced it wrong, but he also did Rocky IV, so he did the music, the same melody that he did this film, Transformers the movie. I have like the CD of it, the music on music, like most of the songs in, especially with especially on Stan Bush when he sings the Dare and the Touch. I think the music got like really popular, and it was also my very favorite, especially with Dare, because I love the music and including the melody that they used. It was really great, and I love that music, and I could just play it over and over again. I could even put it on my iPod and listen to it. And talking about the Transformer characters and do it once again, that I hated when they killed them off, because when I saw it now, when I bought the whole box set, and I'll show it to you, I brought the whole Transformer box set on DVD, and I know it's really dusty, and so I got this and I watched it all, especially when I saw this, I got to know the characters even more, especially now my favorite characters were, besides Optimus and Megatron, my favorite were Wheeljack, Skywarp, Thundercracker, Ratchet, Prowl, Bumblebee. So they were my favorites, and for some strange reason they didn't bring all the characters in. They couldn't just like fit them into one movie. I mean, there were some deleted scenes that they used, well, they didn't bring in, that where Ultra Madness brings all like the Autobots in, like he transforms into sort of a pickup truck like Optimus, but a little different. They had Sideswipe in there, Sunstreaker. Sideswipe was also my favorite, I forgot to mention. There were some Transformer characters from Season 1 and 2 that they appeared during the Battle of Autobot City, because if you see a quick glimpse in the beginning where they were at the moon base with Optimus and Ironhide, and then we see another Transformer character in, we see Grapple in there during the battle in Autobot City. And we also see is Snarl in, where they're being attacked by Galvatron and the other Decepticons known as the Sweeps. They only reappear and then all of a sudden they just disappeared, and we see the Autobots that were really damaged, Wheeljack and Trailblazer. No, not Trailblazer, I forgot the other Autobot's name, but it was Windcharger. Yes, that was his name, Windcharger. They only saw them just for a brief second because they died during Autobot City. One big scene where we see this big climactic where Unicron finally transformed into his robot mode, comes to Cybertron and destroys it, and the Decepticons and the Autobots tries to stop Unicron, and somehow he was like one big giant robot. He's definitely the actual same size as Galactus is. So the Autobots go inside in Unicron's body, and all the tentacles just like popping out of nowhere, and the Autobots tries to run away, and then meanwhile Hot Rod like goes down and finds the Matrix of leadership along with Galvatron. So they have a big battle, and Galvatron was almost close to getting ready to kill him until Hot Rod just reaches out the Matrix. That he became then the next leader of the Autobots. He was now Rodimus Prime. So Rodimus throws Galvatron out of Unicron's body, then he releases the Matrix like the light of their darkest hours and destroys Unicron on the inside. The Autobots gets out of there just in the nick of time before Unicron explodes, and somehow his head just like explodes away into outer space, and then he becomes now an orbit in Cybertron. And then we see Rodimus became the next leader of the Autobots, and we see half the Autobots that survived. So after done talking about this movie, Transformers the movie is a good movie. It's sort of a classic childhood Transformer memory, but it was too bad they had to kill off all the characters, and it was really disappointing, and I really hated saying it over and over, but it's true because I just hated seeing all the Transformer characters that died off one by one, and Megatron becoming Galvatron, so it was not too bad. But I would just see only the order, so I seen Transformers the series from season 1 to 2 to the movie and to season 3 and 4. Up at the ending, almost where in season 3 that they decided to bring Optimus Prime back. In one episode, The Dark Awakening, that Optimus came back, but he was sort of not himself, that they gave him some sort of a dark matrix being commanded by the Quintessons. And then there was a two-part episode, The Return of Optimus Prime, that they brought him back, and that was really great that they brought him back in because he became leader of the Autobots. But then in season 4 they had the Target and the Headmaster, and they left it out cliffhanging, so that was another reason why they ended the show like that. A few years later, that Michael Bay brought in the live-action Transformer movie. Most of them, they weren't too good. They weren't like a Transformer movie. I felt like it was just a Michael Bay movie. Because Michael Bay, all he ever wants is just like explosive and concentrating only on the human characters and not just the Autobots and Decepticon characters. They leave the Transformers as just side characters. That's what I'm feeling like they were doing. And the human characters, they became the big stars of them. The sequels, they weren't too good. I think the only good movie from Michael Bay, the way he did, was just the first film, and that was it. But throughout the sequels, they weren't too good. Some were good, some were they were bad, or they didn't make no sense. Up to upcoming of Transformers 5, that hopefully if they do make a good Transformer movie, they should concentrate only on the Autobot characters and concentrate of Cybertron. They should bring Cybertron in, and they should maybe bring Megatron back in, but just as a regular classic Megatron, like transform it as a gun. Because in the Michael Bay's, went from a Cybertronian jet to a Cybertronian tank, and then to a truck, and then up to the fourth film where we see now Megatron becoming Galvatron. He became a pickup truck like Optimus was. So if they do make a Transformer movie, and they should bring Megatron back and transform it into a gun. Not like, don't make him as a pickup truck, don't make him as a different kind of vehicle, make him as a gun. Only a gun itself. So just to rate the 1986 classic film Transformers the movie, I would have to give it a what the hell, I'll give it a 81 out of 100. For a classic movie and a childhood memory, they just brought back like a great big classic film, and they should do the same thing for Transformers 5. Transformers the movie is a good childhood memory just to watch it over and over again, and it'll never get old, especially where we have the music going on and the battle scene that's happening, including the Megatron and Optimus Prime fight to the death. And I do own this movie on VHS and DVD, and hopefully if they make a 30th anniversary and it comes in Blu-ray, I'll be looking forward to get that. And this is P.M.R.Bonez88 signing off. His saying is, peace!
It's over, Prime.